The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We are coming at you on February 9th, 2022. Somehow, as always, it just amazes me what we've managed to get through more than a year of Biden and COVID. So that's a pretty devastating combination, and yet we're still on our feet. So there we go. But today's episode, we're going to focus a little bit on a little bit of transportation stuff. But before we get into that, I want to introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. Upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So this one, it's a kind of a long haul for Liberty is what we're seeing. It's trucks. Who would have thought that freedom would be hauled on the back of a flatbed for? But I guess everything is about all kinds of crazy delivery now. It's going on, but in Canada, they've had this big issue going on now for a few weeks, and it's been a big freedom convoy. All these truckers have decided they've had it with some of these crazy lockdown measures. And as bad as we think we have it here, things are a little worse in Canada. And so the truckers were under a mandate that they were going to have to all be vaccinated in order to travel from province to province there. And they just said, okay, forget it. I've done it. A lot of them were vaccinated already too. So it's not like all these people are anti-vax. It's just simply that they didn't want to be forced, to do this in order to forced to take an injection in order to do their job. And so they're taking a stand, and of course they're clogging up the streets. And maybe I can get a visual on this. There's a couple visuals I want to show. So it's led to some interesting stuff. To start with, Trudeau is sort of the main culprit there in promoting lockdowns. And he had essentially told everybody that, hey, look, these guys, they're heading to Ottawa with unacceptable views, and that's just not appropriate. So literally, your leader of your government doesn't want to hear about your concerns because of unacceptable views, and he called them a fringe. And it's funny. Elon Musk has been popping up time and time again to sort of say things on the sort of liberty side of things. It's been kind of a little bit of a hero of liberty, at least as far as he's been popping up. And so he actually sparred a little bit with Trudeau on saying that, hey, look, this is, maybe those truckers aren't the fringe. Maybe you guys are the fringe. So, yes. But these are just a few of the images that we're seeing from the truck rally. But it's funny, here's the tweet from Musk. He says, it would appear the so-called fringe minority is the actual government, not the truckers. So, way to go, Musk. And it's funny, you look at the other side of things, sort of mainstream kind of lefty media, kind of the arm of the Democrat, the media arm of the Democrat Party, you might say, in a lot of cases. Of course, they report the story as much more of an emergency. So Ottawa declares state of emergency over truckers' growing anti-government protests, and of course they show the clogged streets, but it's much more of a dire thing that sort of seems to side with people like Trudeau, and it's all these concerns about all these truckers with unacceptable views, and of course they get labeled racists and everything else for coming to protest. So what do you guys think about this? It's kind of a crazy thing. It's kind of shutting down Canada, and there's actually a little bit of talk about doing one to Washington too. But it
is supposed to start March 1st, is what it said. I don't know if it will happen, but that's a claim right now.
Well, it's funny. A lot of the big government types here seem to be backing off a little bit, or backing away from some of the mask mandates recently, and maybe some of the vaccine mandates as well. So who knows? Maybe there won't be a reason to do it then. But anyways, what do you guys think about all this? This huge, trucker convoy for liberty.
Did they burn any buildings down? Did they burn like the downtown business zone down? These truckers, did they do that? Did they torch?
Not yet.
Torch buildings? Not yet.
Yeah. In fact, CNN has not even had to report that it's fiery, but mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. Yeah. And then of course the armed police seized hundreds of gallons of fuel from the protesters' staging areas. So let me get that right. So the government is stealing things that belong to private citizens. Is this correct? Is this where I'm going?
Yes.
The government is stealing. Oh my God, how unusual. The government is stealing from private citizens. I would never have believed it if I didn't read it myself. I'm so shocked to learn that government's stealing from private citizens, like as if we have no rights. Right. Including, not that, well, I mean, Canadians have the same rights as human beings that everybody else has in the whole world. Okay, and that is a right to freedom and a right to their property, and so on and so forth. So, what's the excuse this government is taking on stealing what doesn't belong to them? This time, not that they can't steal through our tax system and every other which way, but anyway, what's going on, Leon?
Tim, it's okay to steal from people with unacceptable views. That's
right.
Yeah, I forgot. Right. You forgot that. You got that wrong, Tim. You got that wrong. Yeah. You see.
They wouldn't have stolen from the people back in March or whenever it was when they were burning down American cities. It wouldn't have been right to steal from those protesters because they've got acceptable views. Is this correct?
They didn't even need to confiscate the pallets of bricks that they were laying out either.
Right. That's right.
Supplies for those protests.
Exactly. In their staging areas. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Leon.
But you see, the whole larger issue is here that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a universal concept. Even though this is occurring in Canada and it may end up here, but it is a universal concept. These are universal principles. You see, people, the citizens of the world in various countries, they are tired of the government and all their mandates and all their lockdowns and everything else. The government have decided what is essential and what is non-essential, and people were put out of work, their livelihoods were destroyed. And this is the backlash that we have spoken about on this show before. It is the beginning, and we are seeing it all over. We are seeing it all over the world right now. In Canada, it may come here to the US, in Europe, and various places. We are seeing this thing ongoing, and I think we're going to see more of it.
Well, this is not just the tip of the iceberg of the story, I guess, because the story gets a little bit crazier too, and it's that, as you note, this is quite a statement about freedom and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and so a lot of people who can't be there but want to help out. So they're going to places like GoFundMe to help the truckers out, to help them support their this rally. And lo and behold, the government has of Ottawa came in and they said, hey, look, this is a what do they call it? An occupation is what they called it, not a protest, and therefore they shouldn't be allowed to do it. And so they wound up pressuring GoFundMe then to say that, okay, well, we're not going to send the money that we said people could send to us to send to the truckers. we said that we're just not going to do it now. and at one point they were even saying they would take that money and send it to other charities, which is just outright theft. And so that actually brought some attention from some of the places where people were donating from, and governors who were sympathetic to this liberty message suddenly began saying, hey, look, we're going to look into investigating this as theft, because you literally said that this money was going to be sent from these people and handed over to these people. Now you're just going to literally hand it over to other people. So just absolutely crazy. And it's funny, too. Once again, we have Elon Musk jumping in on the right side of things. So, boy, I tell you, he just keeps popping up in the best places lately. And he literally put out a tweet about this whole thing. And he said, so he put out a tweet that said amateur thieves, referring to the train robberies that are going on. And he compared that to GoFundMe as professional thieves. So, it's kind of a funny thing, but there's Musk again on the right side of this stuff. So, anyways, what do you guys have to think about this? I mean, this sounds absolutely terrible.
Can I jump in here before you again, second time in a row, Leon? Is that okay?
It's fine.
Okay. All right. So to keep this a family-friendly show, I'm going to use the letter F to represent a word we're all very familiar with in spite of our upbringing, usually. And so what I would like to tell GoFundMe is to go F yourselves, okay? GoFundMe. I will, in spite of their good they may have done in the past, I will never in my life, well, I don't have much left, but in the rest of my life, I will never spend a dime on anybody's GoFundMe quest, okay? Not a single dime, because I don't want a single dime going to that God-forsaken company. I hope they go bankrupt, and I usually don't hope private companies go bankrupt, but in this situation, I hope they go bankrupt and cease to exist, and that all of their CEOs and everybody involved in this decision, I hope they end up homeless underneath a freeway overpass, shivering in the cold and eating canned dog food for the rest of their lives.
Please, Tim, tell us how you feel, please. Please tell us how you feel.
Of course, at that point, they'll be looking for people to send money through something like a GoFundMe to help them out.
Oh, yeah.
There won't be a GoFundMe at that point.
But one of the things that is coming out of this story is the increasing entanglement between the government and big tech. So the government is really trying to censor us. Okay, I mean, this is happening in Canada, I grant you that. But the government is trying to censor us, and what they're doing, the Canadian government, is pressuring GoFundMe to stop funding the truckers, which really and truly is a government trying to silence legitimate protests. And we are seeing more and more of that going on right now, where big tech is silencing people at the behest of the government. Right here in the United States, we have Jen Psaki sitting right there at the podium, speaking for the President of the United States, telling big tech it is not enough to put up disclaimers on the Joe Rogan show. What do you think that is? And you know what happened? They did the dirty work. Well, it was Spotify actually did the dirty work for the government, and the government is still expecting more. They want them to silence Joe Rogan. So what we are seeing is big tech entangling with the government to silence us, which is really and truly the government silencing us, which really and truly is a deep violation of our First Amendment rights. And this is what is going on right now. And we better really, really be careful about this path that we seem to be traveling on.
You know what's pretty incredible about all this, too, is that it was literally just a year ago that we were having all of these crazy BLM Antifa riots out in the streets.
Yes.
And at that time, prominent Democrats were, like Kamala Harris, I believe, were funding some of these funds that were releasing people out of jail, helping to bail people out of jail who were literally out there committing crimes. So, these truckers, like I said, I haven't seen a single image of somebody looting a store or burning down somebody's
or burning a building.
Yes. So, I mean, in fact, they're hitting them with some of the most crazy things. They're trying to say that they're a bunch of Nazis, which is like this is the go-to. This is the go-to attack for the left, because they don't generally try and attack on the idea. They just try and call you a racist and then end the conversation at that point. So they tried that tack, but there's only one image I've seen of somebody with a Nazi flag out there, and my understanding is that the truckers sort of chased them away. so I but then they tried to say, hey, they're trying to come into our soup kitchens and eat for free. Well, you guys have, with your mandates, have said that these guys can't go in and eat if they're not vaccinated and other things like that in some of these places. So it's sort of like, what are they supposed to do? Is it this health mandate that you have? That means just let somebody starve to death out in the cold. For their safety. Is that exactly what we've come to now? And so you sort of don't give them any options. And then to top it off, you're trying to steal the money that people are trying to send them so that they can get the supplies they need. And as Tim said, they're sitting there taking their gasoline and other things away from them to help heat their trucks and things. So it's just
well, okay, fair enough. Fair is fair. I hope that the GoFundMe CEOs, as well as the government idiots at Ottawa or wherever it is, starve to death. Okay, so fair enough. It's okay for them to hope the truckers starve to death and go out of their way to try to make this truckers starve to death, because that's right up their alley. That's what they do. They make people miserable. And so, okay, I'll admit, I hope that these people on the opposite side of this issue, I'm sorry, I'm no longer Mr. Nice Guy. I'm going to harbor ill repute or ill feelings toward these monsters in these high places, and I hope they starve to death. I, honest to God, do. As I don't know, my Irish Catholic nuns that taught me in school are going to be up in arms, I'm sure, and so I beg your forgiveness. Even though you're probably deceased.
But look at where they go whenever they want to keep crushing our liberties. The first thing they do is, Nazis. They are Nazis. Or they are racist. They are flying a Confederate flag. I didn't know that a Confederate flag have any meaning in Canada, but apparently it does. But look at where they go. They always go. It's either white supremacy or they are racist or something. And I would not doubt for 1 second that the left in Canada planted those people with the Nazi flag or those people with the Confederate flag. They planted those people in those protests just to give those images that we are now seeing. Well, it's only been a few images that we are now seeing of people with Confederate flags, people showing a swastika, just to be able to say, they're nothing a bunch of far-right radicals who are trying to destroy the government. People are even using words like, this is an insurrection. Well, it's occurring in Ottawa, which is the federal capital of Canada. This is an insurrection, a peaceful protest, sure, with trucks. It's bulky, and it is disrupting the flow of traffic and all that. But it is a peaceful protest. And still, it's an insurrection of hearing words like that. You got to be joking. Where are we going with all of this? Where are we going in our Western democracies? And where is Western civilization going when this is what we are getting from our political leaders? We're in big trouble here.
That's the most idiotic thing I've heard. People that are protesting for more freedom are carrying images that represent tyranny. Nazism is total tyranny.
Good point.
And so what? Yeah. I'm here to protest for my freedom, and I'm going to carry a Nazi flag. I mean, that's the most stupid thing I ever heard in my life. That somebody would actually do that in that situation. Okay. Anyway, there you are.
Well, it's just
I'm supposed to believe that though, that they would. Yeah, sure.
Well, obviously, there are some leftists in Canada who believe this nonsense, and also and is using it to see if they could gin up support for the crushing of our tyranny, the crushing of our liberties.
Well, that's an IQ test for the left, right there. If I ever saw one.
I think we're getting closer to the end of our show, and so I want to get us out of our neutral here and plow right into the next episode, or into the next topic rather. But that would be related to trains. And so essentially, and this is a good segue too, because what we had, where was it? Musk talking about the amateur thieves versus professional thieves. He was actually showing on the amateur thieves the train thefts that are going on in California, and it's just absolutely crazy. You know, our governor came out and said, you know, he couldn't believe it himself when he came to view the area. He said it looks like something that would happen in a third world country. And so let me pull up some more images of that story. But the crazy thing with this is this sort of lefty, don't arrest anybody, go soft on crime. So what we wound up having is these gangs of thieves who are essentially coming in and robbing these trains in California, which is just like we were in the West or something. And they're literally going on board and just pulling stuff off, grabbing whatever they found that they want, and just littering the tracks with the refuse. And so it even had Governor Newsom got out there to say, hey, this is unacceptable. And the state apparently doesn't realize it's one of his Democrat DAs in Los Angeles that's allowing it all to happen. But apparently, Union Pacific was even hiring its own security, apprehending people who were involved in these thefts, handing them over to the LA district attorney, then who just let them go. And then the same people are coming right back to steal again. So what do you guys have to say about this? It's just insane.
You know, Paul Gascoigne, who is the DA that you're talking about, Jason. I mean, this guy have developed a reputation for just in.
You're freezing out.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid would have thought of all this. This is definitely not professional at all. And sorry, Leon, but
no, it's fine. It's fine.
You're clipping out. Okay, all right. Anyway, that's the only. Go ahead, Leon. Maybe you can finish up.
Yeah, but Gascoigne is so soft on crime you would not believe. I mean, this man is letting out, the worst of the worst. Even in cases of murder, he will not seek the death penalty. Okay, we could argue about the death penalty and all that. He will not seek the death penalty. People commit all robberies using guns. He will not prosecute them or go soft on them in terms of sentencing and all this sort of things. I mean, the guy's a horror show. So when you see things like this happening, where Union Pacific is turning over the criminals and Gascoigne is doing nothing, we should not be surprised. But
I wonder how tough he is on the crime of owning a gun, or like maybe owning more than 10-round magazine. I'll bet he'd come down pretty hard on some, normally law-abiding citizen that happened to have the wrong type of gun or wrong type of magazine. No crime committed other than just possession of something, deemed by the powers to be naughty. And I wonder how hard he'd come down on that poor minion.
Well,
no kidding.
Pretty crazy. But, that takes us into our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, which is actually related to this very same topic. And maybe we could get the image up here. But apparently, when Governor Newsom came out, and it's just the most ridiculous thing, and it really goes to clarify why we're in the trouble that we're in with a lot of these lefty policies. He literally could not even appropriately label what the problem was. He was out there doing a press conference, kind of a photo op of him trying to pick up a little bit of trash around the train tracks. And he literally said, this is not a one-off. This is organized theft. These are organized gangs of people that are coming out. And then he thought about it for a second and he corrected himself and he says, forgive me for saying that. That's a pejorative. They're organized groups of folks that move from site to site. So, I mean, he can't even call these organized gangs or criminal gangs or organized gangs of thieves. He literally has to call them organized groups of folks moving from site to site because he's afraid of how that will be characterized. I just can't even imagine. I mean, how do you even address the problem if you can't even correctly talk about it? You guys have any thoughts on this?
But you see, this is our problem, right? We always have to go to sensitivity training. Now we have to be sensitive to criminals. That's what it is, We can't hurt their feelings. They could rob us, they could kill us, they could rape, they could steal from the trains, they could do all of those things. But we have to be sensitive to them. Please go to sensitivity training. Did you get the lesson? We cannot call them gangs. No, we have to call them, I don't know what, people who are a little bit misguided and take our stuff. That's what we have to do. We have to be sensitive to them.
Well, they get really tired, Leon, of taking their gloves off when it comes to more conservative types that are trying to get their freedoms back. They take those lily white gloves off and they start pounding by calling them insurrectionists or Nazis or white supremacists and so on. Okay, so they never worry about, oh my God, that's a pejorative, calling somebody a Nazi who's anything but so they've got to make up for it because it gets very tiring for those poor people.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show it's always about language with the left, and it's moving the ball on language to try to make it hard to have a reasonable discussion with them about whatever the problem is. And it's such to the point where they can't even be coherent themselves. Organized groups of folks moving from site to site is the problem. I just can't imagine having such an incoherent governor that's literally what, how he defines this problem, this disaster, this train yard. But one thing I'll be clear about, though, is that he is an absolute disaster of a governor, and we've had an absolutely disastrous term underneath him, such that people even tried to recall him. Unfortunately, we couldn't get rid of him because I guess the sheep are still following. But
yes.
Anyways, that's about all the time we have for our show today. But thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one. Until then, stay free.
Indeed.